Thank you to Chaka Fattah for your leadership, especially on the issues of brain research that have the potential to change so many lives.
Especially Congressman Chaka Fattah, for whom this has been a life passion.
Well, welcome again. This is the greatest show on television, and this week's edition is just going to be extraordinary. We're going to focus on one of my earliest successes in the Congress because some 16 years ago I passed into law my first big legislative achievement, created the Gear Up program, gaining early awareness for undergraduate admissions. Now, looking back over those 15 years, some 13 million young people all across the state of Pennsylvania and all across the country have benefited from this program. We're going to spend a few minutes today talking both about where we are now with Gear Up and the reauthorization and the appropriations for this year, but we're also going to take a minute in this segment and talk to two young people whose lives intersect with this program in ways that I think would be helpful for our viewers to hear and to learn about. So we have Jay Reese, who's with us from Arkansas, up near the border with Mississippi, Helena, Arkansas, and we have Hector Arohu. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Come on now.
It's close enough, man. It takes a while to get it down.
Who's from Phoenix, Arizona, these are young people who benefited through the program, who experienced Gear Up in their own communities, and I want you to take some time and just walk through your story. So we'll start with you.
Okay, well, my name is Jay Reese, Jacayla Reese, but I like to be called Jay. I'm from Helena, Arkansas, which is on the very eastern border of Arkansas. Like you said, it's kind of borders Mississippi. I like to call it a 5-minute town. It takes 5 minutes to get in and 5 minutes to get out. So when people usually hear Helena, Arkansas, they automatically probably think of unemployment and probably low performing school districts, and it's actually true. I attended Central High School, which is in the Helena West Helena School District, and that is a school district that's what they call consistently low performing. So everybody knows how it goes. If your test scores are low and they continue to stay low, they'll start to snatch funding from the school district kind of dollar for dollar. So by the time I made it to high school, we had little or no funding left in my school district. Subsequently, I went to school where we didn't really have any up-to-date books. I remember using a book that was from the 1970s. My mother's name was actually in my book, which kind of threw me, it kind of put me in the reality of actually where I was, what kind of society I was living in. We also didn't have any computer labs or modern technology. And some of the other school districts started using those around that time. It was around 2007, 2008. But we didn't get a chance to experience that. We also really didn't have enough funding to hire and retain our certified school teachers. So either we had to share them or go without. And the ones that we did have, they ended up leaving the school district because they weren't being paid the amount of money that they felt like they should be paid. So as you can imagine, that kind of put me in a situation where I felt like I had this cloud of despair hanging over my head, as well as my classmates, because we knew that we weren't receiving the same education as others that were fairly close to us. We began to kind of compare what we were doing and what we were learning to the private school about 5 minutes away from our school. And it was
so you were in a pretty tough situation.
Very tough.
So where did you intersect with Gear Up? What happened?
Around 2008, we got our first Gear Up grant, and immediately after we got the grant, once the money was awarded and appropriated, of course, they began to put new books in our schools. We got computer labs and iPads, even though we didn't really know how to use them. We had to acclimate, but we got them, so that's the important part. And they also put teachers' assistants in our classrooms to kind of catch us up, because I was...
So tell me your story. Did you catch up? Did you...
I did. At the time, before Gear Up, I was about 3 grade levels behind in math. The rest of my grades weren't really that good either. I had a 1.8. by the time I graduated from high school, I had a 3.2, and I was able to make a 27 on my ACT.
All right. So did Gear Up work in terms of its actual purpose to get you to go into college?
Yes, right now I'm getting ready to transfer to Southern Illinois University at Edwardsville. I have a 3.0, and I'm a medical science major.
You're transferring from?
The local community college,
Okay.
Phillips Community College.
So now Gear Up is interested in what we call the entire group of students. What about the rest of the students that were in the Gear Up program? Did they get similar types of benefit in your situation?
They did. As you know, that all of the students in the school district have an opportunity to experience Gear Up. So by the time I graduated, actually we just got our numbers back for this year because I volunteer for the program now. We have had a 32% increase in our graduation rate and a 12% increase in the amount of students that graduate from high school and go on to college.
Well, that's super news. Hector, what can you tell us about not Arkansas, but Arizona?
Well, I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, but my family actually immigrated here from Culiacán, Sinaloa, Mexico. And I was, in 4th grade, my biological father went to prison, and that really put a financial struggle on my mother. And so because of that, we were deemed without a lot of resources, and because my mother dropped out of elementary school in 4th grade in Mexico, when we came here, she really didn't understand how to navigate through the process or really know how to be involved in my intellectual growth as far as a student. So she wasn't like, these are the classes you have to be taking. Are you doing your homework? Or can I help you with your homework? Because she didn't understand the material either. She was never home because she had to work 2, 3 jobs. And what ended up happening was, because she was never home, my father was gone, who influenced you the most, right? It's the people that are in your neighborhood, the people that are around you the most. So when she was able to save up enough money to move us into a community and put a roof over our heads, it wasn't in the best community. It wasn't in the districts where education was really at the center of the community. And it wasn't anywhere where people around you were positive images of what you wanted to aspire to, or anybody there pushing you to nurture you to really develop yourself academically. And so the elementary school years were pretty difficult. Nobody really, education wasn't the key. Education wasn't the way out. It was more so, hey, what are you going to do on the block, right? So how are you going to get involved outside of school to make a little money to be able to food on the table, right? And in those occupations aren't necessarily the best ones.
Right.
And what ended up happening was, all of a sudden in 7th grade, Gear Up comes into our lives, and we get this announcement that this new program is coming in, and they're going to send 2 coordinators to come follow us all the way through our 7th grade to 12th grade. And they send this white woman from Boise, Idaho to our school, and everyone's like, what is this white woman ever going to understand about the communities that we live in? But she came in and said, look, I'm part of this program that was created by you that says, look, we believe in you, and we believe in your kind, that if we provide you the resources, if we provide you the things that we believe can help you become successful and help you through your academic pursuits, then I promise you that you'll graduate from high school and you'll go on, and that you can break the mold and the cycle of which you live in. And we're all looking at her like, you don't even know us. What do you mean you believe in us? You don't even know the lives that we're living. But she came in and said, listen, I'm going to be here, and I'm not pretending that I know how you live, that I understand, that I can empathize or sympathize, but what I can tell you is that I'm here and that I'm committed to you, and whenever you need me, I'll be here. And little by little, she started to create this college-going culture. All of a sudden, the word college kept coming in upon conversation. I didn't even know how to spell college at the time, right? So I'm like, how am I supposed to get there? And there was this little, there she was, the little voice behind us saying, you can do it. I believe in you. And what I always say is, sometimes it takes the belief that others have in you before you can start believing in yourself, right? So you have to start believing in that, because I'm like, well, if she keeps telling me that she believes in me and sees something in me. So then I started to kind of believe it. I'm like, okay, well, maybe I am deserving. Maybe I am capable.
Right.
And all of a sudden, we're going on these tours to college campuses that, the only time we'd seen that are in magazines or on television or on movies.
Well, the law requires that there be extended college visitations.
Good.
So you got a chance to go out and visit some schools.
Absolutely, a numerous amount of times. And the first time it was more like a shock, like, wow, we're on a college campus, this is real. And the more that it started happening, the more it started to become real. Like, I can see myself here. Okay. I believe that I can be here. And little by little, tons of us were then starting to believe, like, maybe we can do this. Maybe we can break the cycle. But again, we're only in school so much amount of time, right? 7 hours a day, and then what's going on after that, right? When you go home, what's really going on in your life outside of that? And that's what really made it difficult for us to truly be able to believe in that message. But there was Ms. Johnson always saying, listen, if you're not going to go to class, if you need a ditch or what have you, just don't go to the streets. Come to my office.
Right.
And so we're like, all right, well, she has free food, right? She has free things. So let's start hanging out there. So the more that we started hanging out in there, the more that she used that time to really start breaking down the barrier and breaking down the walls of our life.
Well, in these Gear Up Success offices in schools, and I've seen them all over the country, they really have made a difference. But
Absolutely.
the law requires some basic things, rigorous curriculum.
Absolutely.
You get this mentorship, you get college visitation, but you have to do the work. I mean, you have to make the decision, right? I mean, nobody's doing this math work for you, right? Or science or biology.
Yeah.
I mean, Gear Up is about motivating students and creating the knowledge that we already know.
Yeah.
We know that you can go to college, that you can be successful, but we're trying to communicate that to large numbers of young people, and some 13 million so far.
Yeah.
We've invested a lot of resources in trying to get young people headed in the right direction, and y'all are examples of what is truly possible. But in terms of Gear Up, the notion of this long-term conversation, that it's not a sprint, that it's not somebody just stopping in, giving a talk. It's really somebody's going to be around for 7 years.
Yeah.
Interacting from first day of middle school up through college is what I think really makes the difference. I think the Gear Up staff around the country and volunteers. There are a lot of volunteers. Now you're back volunteering, right? This is great, but you're also a role model now for other young people. So talk to me about your college experience, and particularly that first year of college once you got there.
Well, I left right after high school. I actually started attending Delta State University. When I got there, and I'm going to be honest, Gear Up does sort of what they call college match, college fit, and it's kind of up to you to listen to them. I did not listen. They told me, based on what we've seen the past 5 years you've been in our program, Delta State might not be right for you. I went anyway, and I ended up coming back. Academically, though, Gear Up did provide me with the basis that I need, because I wasn't going to be able to get that from my local school district. So academically, I did do well, but it wasn't a great social fit for me. So even when I came back, I wasn't able to participate in any of the services because I was a college student, but that still didn't stop the Gear Up home team from saying, okay, look, let's try again. Right. And they helped me to enroll in the local community college. And once I got done paying off all the things that I had to pay at Delta State, they helped me find Southern Illinois University, which I'm very excited about attending.
Great school. Yes.
Great school.
Yeah. What about you? Now, you're in graduate school, but go back to those undergrad years. So
they were, so the way that Ms. Johnson, again, that mentorship role, and also through the high school process of pushing you to really pursue, really academically rigorous classes to really prepare yourself to, because once you get to college, that's a whole completely other animal, you have to navigate through. And Ms. Johnson was fantastic as far as the way that even though we want everybody to go to the best schools, right? Just because school is number one doesn't necessarily mean that it's number one for you, right? And so she said, where do you feel most comfortable? What do you think you can really excel in? And I did the same route. I did the community college route the first 2 years. Right. And then transferred on to University of Arizona. But the first year was really a transition. But Gear Up did help because we do summer programs as well. So what they do is every summer they send us for 7 days to a college campus within the state. Right. And you get to live in the dorms, experience what it's like to be a college student. And they try to create the programming for the week on how it feels like to go to classes, that are spread out. It's your responsibility to go, right? There's no teacher calling your parents saying, hey, your son hasn't shown up to class.
There's nobody to wake you up when you're in college. Yeah. You got to get up. So even if you partied all night.
Yeah, exactly. You still got to get up and make it through, right, the next morning. And so they really set the tone as far as us becoming conditioned to, all right, we have to become responsible and take it upon ourselves to reach out and go for help, right? Because all through high school they said, look, we're going to give you tutors, we're going to provide you the resources. Now when you get to college, we hope that we prepared you enough for you to be able to navigate through and reach out for help and seek those tutors. And so the first semester, it was a difficult transition for me because number one, I didn't think I'd be going to college, right, until like my senior year that it really became real. Okay. And then when I got there, I was in a little bit of shock. I'm like, this is a completely new world. Do I really belong here? Can I really excel? And so it really took a lot of work, but I was able to really reach out for help and say, hey, look, I need help in these classes. I need to, you know, I went to tutoring offices. I went to the admissions office and say, hey, how do I navigate through this system to make sure that I'm going to be okay? And it was tough. I'm not gonna lie.
Now, did you get a chance to do when you were in high school, college visitations?
Yes, all the time. As a matter of fact,
All the time. That's
all
great.
the time.
Yeah.
We weren't. My family wasn't very low income, but still, we didn't have the money for me to go visit schools that, you know, I really wanted to go to. So, all of my vacations were college trips with Gear Up. Coming from Arkansas, you know, New York City and other places, I went there. NYU, Columbia. They took me to schools in New Orleans, schools in Chicago, schools from everywhere. We went all the time. It was a norm for us to go.
Okay. And what about you? Did you visit?
Yeah, well, we absolutely hit all of the Arizona schools. We have 3 major universities within the state, and then the surrounding states as well.
Okay.
That they had partnerships, right? Because Gear Up is, especially around Arizona, every state around us has a Gear Up program. So they say, hey,
Everybody's got Gear Up.
everybody's
program.
got Gear Up.
Yeah.
And so they're like, hey, bring them to our state and see if some of your students can't benefit from some of these institutions or whatever they're, you know, looking to major in. You know, bring them on over to Utah, Colorado, Nevada, New Mexico, California.
Well, y'all have interacted with a lot of, and you're involved with the Gear Up alumni.
Mm-hmm.
You've interacted with a lot of young people who've been involved with the Gear Up program. So what do you see as the major strengths of the program that work that we should make sure as a country we continue to do?
So I'm speaking from my perspective in the community that I represent, right? The college visits are key to make you believe and really truly understand that this is what a college is. This is what it looks like. Can you visualize and see yourself in this place? And then consistently doing it, right? Because the first time you go there, you might be like, man, this isn't for me.
Right.
But the more that you visit, the more that you go to different institutions, the more that you feel comfortable. And most importantly, is really reaching out to the parents, right? Because a lot of from my community, they want the help. They say, look, help us help our children. Right. Help us navigate through this process. And so what Gear Up did in our community, they really reached out for parent engagement. And whatever resources you can give them as far as how to best do that, that's key. Because they're only in school again 7 hours a day, then you got to go home. And even though parents don't feel as comfortable saying, hey, can I help you on that math? But saying, hey, I know the tutor, Ms. Johnson, so tomorrow morning make sure you show up in our office at this time to make sure you're getting that help. So parent engagement and visits, absolutely.
All right. And you?
I'm gonna have to agree with Hector. Parental involvement is key. They educate the parents on like the financial assistance, which is a big thing because parents want to know, like, I don't want to send my child there if I can't pay for it, you know. And all parents don't know about scholarships, grants. They don't even know about Pell Grant, which is kind of like universal in this country. So definitely the parental involvement, they make parents feel more comfortable about sending their children to college, especially from low-income areas, you know. Where I'm from, we kind of perpetuate this get your diploma thing, and that's it. But Gear Up, as Hector said, creates a college-going culture. The college visits are key because, again, you feel comfortable on those college campuses, and you feel like I can be here, I can belong here. And also, what really helped me was the rigorous academic curriculum, as we like to call it. It's a curriculum that continues to push you.
Right. Talk to me about that transition from the old curriculum to the Gear Up grant, and then what was expected of you, or what was available to you?
Well, so before Gear Up, I was basically just doing the curriculum for my school district, if that's what you're asking.
Yes, that's what I'm asking.
Okay. So again, we didn't really have permanent teachers, or we didn't have the money for that. So I remember, I speak about math because that's where I've grown the most. My math teacher was not there for the majority of the school year, my 9th grade year. So really didn't learn anything there. So when we got the Gear Up grant and we started doing the rigorous academic curriculum, it was a big challenge for me. I was very behind, very behind.
You keep speaking of you. What about the other students in your class? Were they similarly situated?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
They, as a class, of course, because we all used the same teachers, we kind of all were, And I don't really have any. Well, yeah, we kind of were all on the same level. Some of us were further behind than others. But as a class, Gear Up made sure that they came in and they kind of integrated equally throughout the school, kind of dispersed themselves to make sure that everybody had that opportunity, if you wanted it, to kind of get caught up. Okay. So it wasn't just me, my whole class.
And what about you and your the guys you hung out with?
Yeah,
who were attracted to other activities,
yeah,
but had to go to school.
Yeah.
How did Gear Up impact them, and not just you?
Well, and the great thing was, because it impacted me. So the peer-to-peer mentorship and the peer-to-peer way that we're able to really exemplify and be the leadership that necessarily, you know, when teachers tell us what to do, we're like, oh, okay, well, they're supposed to tell us, but when it's our own peers saying, hey, look, maybe you should think about getting involved with this or think about getting involved with that, they start to pay attention more so.
Okay.
And so Gear Up is a cohort, right? So they pick a graduating class, and so all of us were like, all right, well, we're a part of this program. Some of us were more involved than others in the beginning, right? And then little by little, as we got closer to graduation, everybody, you know, by senior year, even some people dropped out, but they came back and said, look, this is a privilege. This is an honor to have this type of programming here. And all of us were like, hey, man, you got to get back into school because this is looking like we're going to be able to break the mold here because of this program. Do you want to be a part of it? Right? And so watching us from the sidelines being like, man, they're beginning to excel in the classroom. They're beginning to believe in themselves. You start having that energy around you, like, all right, you walk with a little different swag, like, I'm about to do this. Graduation's coming. I think I'm going to walk across the line. Right. And so that really impacted the whole class. And not only our cohort, but the younger folks before us saw that, like, wait a minute, college now going to college is a real deal. Everybody's talking about it. The closer we got to the end of the year, it came up more and more in conversation. Even before that, because we had a new career center that kept marketing, like, all of a sudden we have banners of all these universities across the campus. And so younger, freshmen and sophomores are coming up to us and saying, hey, what college are you going to go to? You really going to go to college? And we're like, yeah, we're going to go to college, and you're going to go to college too. And
well, so the facts are, that 1 out of 100 people have a college degree in this world. Our country used to lead the world in the number of adults with a college degree. Now we're like 16th in the world. Yeah. But as an individual, it means a lot. I mean, it means about $1 million more over your lifetime of earnings for you. But for the country, it means so much more. If we get more of our young people educated, it creates a more educated citizen, and it allows us to build the economy of our country. So that's why it's so important that, that's why I created Gear Up, right? It was, in the 21st century scholars, right, was the notion, which was that we wanted to create the impulse that our young people could be successful. Absolutely. Notwithstanding the whatever circumstances of the communities, because you don't have control over whether you're born into a wealthy situation or a situation which life is a little more challenging. But it doesn't have much to do with whether you can succeed, if you're given the opportunity. And so we can't control the result. We want to create the opportunity. Yeah. Right? Exactly. And you are a great example. You're in graduate school now?
Yes, sir.
Tell us, where are you studying?
Education policy. All right. Yeah, at the University of Arizona, and I will finish next year in May.
Well, that's great. You get a master's degree?
Yes, sir.
And then what are your plans?
Now the PhD conversation is starting to come. Everyone that I speak to says, heck, you got to keep it going. Right. You got to reach the highest levels of education and attainment that you can. But every time those conversations come, even in the master's program, I still sit there sometimes. I'm like, man, I was never supposed to be here, right? As a kid, we were always told you were never going to make it. And so when PhD conversations start coming into the conversation, you get the chills a little bit. Like, this is legitimately something that can happen because it's something you came up with 16 years ago. The idea that you have.
What's your future? What's the plan?
Again, I have 3 more semesters, and I'll graduate with my bachelor's in medical science and my minor in chemistry. Again, I'm like Hector. Like, I couldn't even do math on grade level before, and the Gear Up program came in, and now I'm able to have a major that's mainly math and science related. When I get done, I do want to go to graduate school. I'm looking into some physician assistance programs right now. So those are my plans, and later on in my career, I really would like to do some type of research. So I'm still, the jury's still out on that, but I'm just taking it one day at a time. So.
Okay.
I'm going to be running for, not your seat, but a congressional seat in Arizona one day as well.
Hey,
You
look,
better believe it.
well, we all had to step off the stage at some point, and some Gear Up student in the Philadelphia area is probably prepping for my seat right now. But let me thank you for all that you've done and the examples that you set for the country, because we need for young people to understand that they can be successful. The best way to sell that story, is through the examples that the two of y'all have set and so many others of the Gear Up alumni. So what brings you to Washington this week, real quickly? Tell us what you've been doing here on the Hill.
So the organization decided to say, hey, look, we have so many alumni now. Right. Let's pick 30 from across the country, bring them to Washington, D.C. for the Gear Up Alumni Leadership Academy for an entire week. We'll take them through an entire developmental process of leadership on how to be able to tell your story, to go back into your communities, to serve as mentors, as resources for your Gear Up programs. Like most of us already do, but now we're really being able to develop, formalize it.
And what have you got out of your period here in Washington?
Oh, so much. Like I said, I already work, I volunteer for the program, and so I've really learned some concrete ways and strategies on how to take what I already know, what I've already experienced, and kind of mobilize that movement for my community and for the Gear program as a whole.
All right. Well, we're going to be watching your success as you go forward. Thank you very much. And, in a few years, we'll have you back, and we'll have another great discussion. This show, I told you at the front, and the viewers already know, this is the best show on television.
Hey, I'm glad to be part
It's a
of
capital idea. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much for having us. I appreciate that.
Thank you.